My mother-in-law ruined my daughter's second birthday by constantly using the wrong name. When I told her she couldn't stay with us, she lied to the entire family and said we banned her from seeing her grandchildren forever. I am Maria, 26F, and my husband is Carlos, 29M. We both moved to Canada from Mexico 3 years ago when our oldest son Diego was 2 years old. We now have 2 kids, Diego who is 5 and our daughter Isabella who just turned 2 last month. My mother-in-law Rosa, 58F, has always been very vocal about everything. When I was pregnant with Diego, she spent months telling us the name we picked was too common and that every other boy in his class would have the same name. She would call Carlos every week with new suggestions and even sent us a list of 50 alternative names through WhatsApp. The complaints only stopped when Diego was born and we had already filled out all the paperwork. When I got pregnant with Isabella, we decided to keep the name secret until after she was born. We thought this would prevent any drama since the name would already be official by the time Rosa found out. We were completely wrong. The day Isabella was born, Carlos called his family to share the news. Rosa's first response was not congratulations or asking how the baby was doing. Instead, she immediately started complaining about the name Isabella, saying it was too fancy for a regular family like ours and that people would think we were putting on airs. She said the name sounded like we were trying to be better than everyone else. That phone call happened 2 years ago, and Rosa has not stopped complaining since then. Every single time we talk to her, she brings up Isabella's name. She tells us it's pretentious and that Isabella will get made fun of at school. She says kids will think she's stuck up because of her name. Rosa has also started referring to Isabella as Bella in every conversation, even though we've told her multiple times that we call our daughter Isabella, not Bella. The situation got worse 6 months ago when Rosa started posting comments on our Facebook photos. Whenever we shared pictures of Isabella, Rosa would write things like how cute Bella looked or how much Bella had grown. She would completely ignore that we always wrote Isabella in our captions. Other family members started using Bella too because they saw Rosa doing it. Carlos tried talking to his mom several times. He explained that we chose Isabella for specific reasons and that we wanted people to use her full name. Rosa would agree during the phone call but then go right back to using Bella the next day. She told Carlos that Bella was easier to say and that Isabella was too long for everyday use. The breaking point came 2 months ago when Rosa was video calling with the kids. Diego was showing her his new toy truck and Isabella was playing with her blocks nearby. Rosa kept calling Isabella over by saying, "Come here Bella, look at this Bella, show me what you're doing Bella." Isabella looked confused because she's not used to being called Bella at home. She kept looking at Diego instead of responding to Rosa. After the call ended, Diego asked me why Grandma kept calling his sister the wrong name. He wanted to know if Isabella had 2 names or if Grandma was talking to someone else. I had to explain that some people use shorter versions of names but that his sister's name was Isabella. Diego then asked if he should start calling her Bella too since that's what Grandma does. That conversation made me realize how much Rosa's behavior was affecting our family. Our 5-year-old was getting confused about his own sister's name because his grandmother refused to use it correctly. I talked to Carlos about it that night and we both agreed something had to change. Carlos called Rosa the next day and had a serious conversation with her. He told her that she needed to stop using Bella and start using Isabella's proper name. He explained that she was confusing the kids and disrespecting our choice as parents. Rosa got defensive and said she had the right to call her granddaughter whatever she wanted. She claimed that family members should be allowed to have special nicknames for the grandchildren. Carlos pointed out that we never agreed to any nickname and that we had specifically asked her to use Isabella multiple times. Rosa then started crying and said we were being mean to an old woman who just wanted to feel close to her granddaughter. She hung up on Carlos before he could respond. Rosa didn't call us for 2 weeks after that conversation. When she finally did call back, she apologized and promised to use Isabella's name correctly. We thought the problem was solved, but it only lasted about a month. Rosa gradually went back to using Bella in conversations and posts. The final straw happened 3 weeks ago. Rosa was planning to visit us here in Canada for Isabella's second birthday party. She was going to stay with us for a week since she doesn't speak any English and wouldn't be comfortable in a hotel by herself. Carlos's brother Miguel, 34M, was also coming but he was planning to get his own hotel room so he could explore the city. Rosa called us to discuss the visit details and she kept referring to the party as Bella's birthday party. She asked what kind of cake Bella liked and what presents Bella might want. She talked about how excited she was to finally meet Bella in person since she hadn't visited since Isabella was 6 months old. Carlos corrected her several times during the call, but Rosa just ignored him and kept using Bella. After that phone call, Carlos and I had a long discussion. We realized that having Rosa stay in our house for a week would mean constant exposure to her calling Isabella the wrong name. We were worried about how it would affect both of our children, especially since Isabella is now old enough to notice when people use different names for her. We also didn't want Rosa's behavior to ruin Isabella's birthday party. This was going to be Isabella's first real birthday party with friends from daycare and decorations and everything. The thought of Rosa spending the whole day calling her Bella in front of all the other kids and parents made us both stressed. Carlos and I decided that we couldn't let Rosa stay with us during the visit. 2 weeks ago, Carlos called his mom and told her that she would need to find other accommodations. He explained that her continued refusal to use Isabella's correct name was the reason for this decision. He told her she could ask Miguel to help her get a room at his hotel or find somewhere else to stay. Rosa started crying immediately and accused us of being cruel. She said we were punishing an old woman for something small and meaningless. Carlos explained that it wasn't small or meaningless to us and that she had been given many chances to correct her behavior. Rosa then got angry and said we were being dramatic and trying to keep her away from her grandchildren. Since that call, Rosa has been contacting us almost daily. Sometimes she apologizes and promises to use Isabella's name correctly. Other times she gets angry and accuses us of alienating her from the family. She keeps switching between these two approaches, but she has never actually acknowledged why her behavior is problematic. Miguel called us last week to discuss the situation. He agrees that Rosa is being stubborn about the name issue, but he thinks we're being too harsh by not letting her stay with us. He pointed out that Rosa is getting older and doesn't speak the language here, so staying alone would be difficult for her. Miguel said we had promised months ago that Rosa could stay with us, and now we were backing out at the last minute. Miguel offered to help Rosa get a hotel room, but he thinks we should reconsider our decision. He understands our frustration but believes we could just ignore Rosa's comments about the name during her visit. Miguel suggested that we focus on having a good time together instead of getting upset about what he calls a minor issue. The birthday party is this weekend and Rosa still hasn't booked anywhere to stay. She keeps calling and asking if we've changed our minds about letting her stay with us. Yesterday she told Carlos that if we don't let her stay with us, she might not come to the party at all. She said it would be too complicated for her to manage being in a hotel by herself. Carlos and I are both exhausted from dealing with this situation. We want Isabella to have a good birthday party, but we also don't want to give in to Rosa's manipulation. At the same time, we're starting to wonder if we're making too big a deal out of the name issue. Some of our friends think we should just let Rosa stay with us and ignore her comments. I keep going back and forth about whether we're doing the right thing. Part of me thinks we need to stand firm and protect our children from Rosa's disrespectful behavior. But another part of me wonders if we're being too strict and causing unnecessary family drama. Rosa has always been a difficult person who complains about everything, but we generally get along with her okay. The distance between Mexico and Canada helps because we only have to deal with her behavior during phone calls and visits. But this name issue has become such a constant source of stress that it's affecting our whole relationship with her. Am I being unreasonable for not wanting Rosa to stay with us during Isabella's birthday week? Should we just accept that she's going to call Isabella whatever she wants and try to work around it? Update 1. I wanted to update everyone on what happened with Rosa's visit and Isabella's birthday party. Thank you to everyone who commented on my original post. Reading your responses helped me realize that we were making the right decision by setting boundaries. Rosa did end up coming for the birthday party, but the whole situation got much more complicated than I expected. 3 days before she was supposed to arrive, she still hadn't booked a hotel room. She kept calling Carlos and asking if we had changed our minds about letting her stay with us. When Carlos said no, she would hang up or start crying. Miguel called us 2 days before the party and said he was frustrated with Rosa's behavior. He had offered to help her book a room at his hotel multiple times, but she kept refusing. Rosa told Miguel that she shouldn't have to stay in a hotel because families should take care of each other. Miguel said Rosa was being manipulative and trying to force us to give in. The day before Rosa was supposed to fly to Canada, she called Carlos and said she had decided not to come at all. She claimed that since we didn't want her in our house, we obviously didn't want her at the party either. Carlos tried to explain that those were two different things, but Rosa said it was too late and too complicated for her to find accommodation. Carlos was really upset after that phone call. He felt guilty that his mom was going to miss Isabella's birthday because of our decision. I could see him starting to doubt whether we had done the right thing. Carlos called Miguel to see if there was any way to fix the situation. Miguel told Carlos that Rosa had never actually bought her plane ticket. She had been planning all along to use the accommodation issue as an excuse not to come. Miguel said Rosa had been complaining to other family members that we were being mean to her, and she wanted them to pressure us into apologizing. This information changed everything for Carlos. He realized that Rosa had been manipulating the whole situation from the beginning. She never intended to find alternative accommodation because she wanted to create drama and make us look like the bad guys to the rest of the family. Carlos called Rosa back and told her that Miguel had revealed she never bought a plane ticket. Rosa got defensive and claimed she was going to buy it once the accommodation was settled. Carlos pointed out that she had weeks to book a hotel room and chose not to. He told her that her decision not to come was her own choice and not our fault. The birthday party went ahead as planned without Rosa. Isabella had a wonderful day with her friends from daycare and some neighbors we had invited. Diego helped his sister open presents and they both enjoyed the princess-themed decorations we had put up. The party was exactly what we wanted it to be, focused on Isabella and celebrating her. However, the drama didn't end there. 2 days after the party, Carlos started getting phone calls from relatives in Mexico. Rosa had been telling everyone that we banned her from Isabella's birthday party and refused to let her see her granddaughter. She told them we were keeping the children away from their grandmother over something petty. Carlos had to spend hours on the phone explaining the real situation to various aunts, uncles, and cousins. Most of them understood once they heard our side of the story, but a few believed Rosa's version and thought we were being unreasonable. Carlos's Aunt Carmen even suggested that we should apologize to Rosa to keep peace in the family. Miguel was furious when he found out Rosa was spreading lies about what happened. He called several family members himself to set the record straight. Miguel told them that Rosa had refused multiple offers of help with accommodation and never bought her plane ticket. He explained that we had every right to set boundaries about how our children's names are used. The situation created a split in Carlos's extended family. Some relatives supported our decision and agreed that Rosa's behavior was disrespectful. Others thought we should have been more understanding of an older woman's preferences. A few family members stopped talking to us altogether because they believed Rosa's version of events. 3 weeks after the party, Rosa called Carlos and apologized. She said she had been wrong to lie to the family about what happened. Rosa admitted that she never bought her plane ticket and that she had been hoping we would change our minds about the accommodation. She asked if we could start over and plan another visit. Carlos told Rosa that he appreciated her apology, but he needed time to think about future visits. He said he was hurt that she had lied to the family and tried to turn them against us. Carlos explained that trust had been broken and it would take time to rebuild. Rosa then asked if she could at least video call with the children regularly like before. Carlos said yes, but only if she agreed to use Isabella's correct name during the calls. Rosa hesitated and said she would try her best. Carlos told her that trying wasn't good enough and that she needed to commit to using Isabella's name consistently. During their first video call after the apology, Rosa did use Isabella's name correctly. She asked how Isabella was doing and commented on how much Isabella had grown. But halfway through the call, she slipped back into using Bella. When Carlos corrected her, Rosa said it was just a habit and that changing would take time. Carlos ended the video call early and told Rosa that she could call back when she was ready to respect our family's boundaries. Rosa got upset and said we were being too strict, but Carlos stood firm. He told her that we had given her countless chances already and that this was her last opportunity. Since then, Rosa has called twice more. The first call went well and she used Isabella's name throughout the conversation. The second call started okay, but Rosa began using Bella again after a few minutes. Carlos warned her once, and when she continued, he ended the call. Miguel has been very supportive throughout this whole process. He told us that Rosa has always been stubborn and that she needs to face real consequences for her behavior. Miguel said he's proud of us for standing up for our children and not giving in to family pressure. The extended family drama has mostly died down now. Most relatives have moved on to other topics, though a few are still upset with us. Carlos and I have decided that we're okay with some family members being angry if it means protecting our children's well-being. Isabella's birthday party ended up being perfect despite all the drama surrounding it. She had no idea about any of the family conflict and just enjoyed celebrating with the people who were there. Diego keeps asking when Grandma Rosa is going to visit again, but we've explained that it might be a while. We're still not sure what will happen with Rosa long term. She clearly struggles to respect our boundaries consistently, but she has shown some improvement. We're taking it one phone call at a time and seeing if she can maintain better behavior over a longer period. Update 2: I have another update about the situation with Rosa and wanted to share some unexpected developments that happened recently. Things took a turn that I wasn't prepared for and I'm still processing everything. After my last update, Rosa had been doing better with using Isabella's name during video calls. She would slip up occasionally, but when Carlos corrected her, she would apologize and use the right name for the rest of the conversation. We thought maybe she was finally learning to respect our boundaries. About 6 weeks ago, Rosa asked if she could plan another visit to Canada. She said she wanted to make up for missing Isabella's birthday party and prove that she could behave appropriately. Rosa suggested coming for a long weekend and staying in a hotel from the beginning. She even offered to book the hotel herself to show she was serious. Carlos and I discussed it and decided to give her another chance. We figured that a short visit with clear boundaries might work better than the longer stay she had originally planned. Carlos told Rosa she could visit but emphasized that she needed to use Isabella's correct name throughout the entire trip. Rosa agreed to all our conditions and booked her flight and hotel room. She seemed genuinely excited about the visit and kept talking about activities she wanted to do with both children. For the first time in months, our phone conversations with her were pleasant and focused on positive things. 2 weeks before Rosa's planned visit, something unexpected happened. Carlos's cousin Patricia called us from Mexico with some disturbing information. Patricia had been talking to Rosa about the upcoming trip, and Rosa had said something that worried her. According to Patricia, Rosa had mentioned that she was planning to convince Isabella to like being called Bella during the visit. Rosa told Patricia that once Isabella got used to the nickname, we wouldn't be able to object to other people using it. Rosa said that children prefer shorter names anyway and that Isabella would probably ask us to call her Bella after spending time with Grandma. Patricia was uncomfortable with Rosa's plan and decided to warn us. She said Rosa seemed to think she could win Isabella over and create a situation where we would have to accept the nickname. Patricia apologized for getting involved but felt we should know what Rosa was really thinking. Carlos was furious when he heard this. He realized that Rosa's improved behavior on phone calls was just an act to get another chance to visit. She hadn't actually changed her attitude about the name issue and was planning to manipulate our 2-year-old daughter during her visit. Carlos called Rosa immediately and confronted her about what Patricia had told us. At first Rosa denied saying anything like that, but when Carlos pressed her, she admitted that she might have mentioned hoping Isabella would warm up to a family nickname. Rosa claimed there was nothing wrong with grandparents having special names for their grandchildren. Carlos explained once again that we had specifically told her not to use any nickname for Isabella. He pointed out that she had agreed to use Isabella's correct name during the visit. Rosa then got defensive and said she hadn't technically agreed not to help Isabella discover that she might prefer a shorter version of her name. The conversation escalated quickly from there. Rosa accused Carlos of being controlling and trying to dictate how she could interact with her own granddaughter. Carlos told Rosa that her plan to manipulate a toddler was inappropriate and showed she couldn't be trusted. Rosa started crying and said we were treating her like a criminal over something harmless. Carlos ended up canceling Rosa's visit. He told her that she had violated our trust by planning to go behind our backs with Isabella. Rosa begged him to reconsider and promised she wouldn't use any nicknames, but Carlos said it was too late. He explained that knowing about her secret plan made it impossible for us to feel comfortable having her around our children. Rosa was devastated by this decision. She called back several times that day, alternating between apologizing and getting angry. She accused us of looking for excuses to keep her away from the grandchildren. Rosa said that Patricia had misunderstood her comments and that she would never try to manipulate Isabella. Miguel called us the next day after Rosa had contacted him in tears. He was disappointed to hear about Rosa's plan but not entirely surprised. Miguel said Rosa has always believed she knows what's best for everyone and has trouble accepting when people disagree with her. He supported our decision to cancel the visit. The aftermath of this incident has been worse than anything that happened before. Rosa has been telling family members that we canceled her visit at the last minute for no good reason. She claims we're using the name issue as an excuse to cut her off from the grandchildren completely. Some relatives have been calling Carlos to ask what really happened. Unlike last time, more family members seem to be taking Rosa's side. They think we're being too harsh and that grandparents should have some flexibility in how they interact with grandchildren. Carlos's uncle Roberto even suggested that we're damaging the children by keeping them away from their grandmother. The family pressure has been intense this time. Carlos has been getting phone calls almost daily from different relatives trying to convince him to give Rosa another chance. Some of them have offered to supervise Rosa's interactions with the children or promised to make sure she behaves appropriately. Carlos has been struggling with all the family criticism. I can see that he's starting to doubt our decisions again, especially when his own siblings are telling him he's being unreasonable. Carlos loves his family and doesn't want to be the cause of all this conflict, but he also wants to protect our children. 2 weeks ago, things got even more complicated. Rosa called and told Carlos that she had been feeling chest pains and shortness of breath since we canceled her visit. She said the stress of being separated from her grandchildren was affecting her health. Rosa's doctor had told her that emotional stress could be contributing to her symptoms. Rosa didn't directly say that we were responsible for her health problems, but the implication was clear. She told Carlos that she just wanted to see her grandchildren and couldn't understand why we were making everything so difficult. Rosa said she was getting older and didn't know how much time she had left with the family. This health scare really affected Carlos. He started wondering if we were taking the name issue too seriously and causing unnecessary stress for his aging mother. Carlos asked me if we should just ignore Rosa's comments about Isabella's name and focus on maintaining family relationships. I reminded Carlos about Rosa's plan to manipulate Isabella during her visit. That wasn't just about using a nickname, it was about deliberately trying to undermine our parenting decisions and confuse our daughter. I pointed out that Rosa had lied to us about her intentions and couldn't be trusted. Carlos agreed with my points logically, but I could tell he was torn emotionally. The combination of family pressure and Rosa's health issues was making him question everything. We had several difficult conversations about what we should do going forward. Last week, Miguel called with an update on Rosa's health situation. He had talked to her doctor directly and learned that Rosa's symptoms were mild and likely related to her general anxiety, not any serious heart condition. The doctor had recommended stress management techniques and regular exercise, not family reconciliation. Miguel was annoyed that Rosa had exaggerated her health issues to manipulate Carlos. He told us that Rosa has a pattern of using emotional manipulation when she doesn't get her way. Miguel said we shouldn't feel guilty about setting appropriate boundaries with her. Armed with this information, Carlos felt more confident about our decisions. He called Rosa and told her that he was glad her health issues weren't serious, but that her attempt to use them as leverage was inappropriate. Carlos said we were still not comfortable with visits until she could demonstrate consistent respect for our family rules. Rosa was shocked that Miguel had talked to her doctor and accused us of invading her privacy. She denied trying to manipulate anyone and said she was just expressing how the family conflict was affecting her. Rosa said we were being paranoid and looking for reasons to justify our cruel treatment of her. Since that conversation, Rosa has not called us at all. We're not sure if she's giving us space or planning her next approach. The extended family drama has calmed down somewhat, but some relatives are still upset with us. Carlos and I have decided to focus on our immediate family and not worry about managing everyone else's opinions. Isabella and Diego are both doing well and haven't been affected by any of this adult drama. They occasionally ask about Grandma Rosa, but they're satisfied with simple explanations about her being busy in Mexico. We're committed to protecting them from the family conflict while they're still so young. Update 3. This will be my final update on the Rosa situation. A lot has happened in the past month and a half, and I think we've reached a resolution of sorts, though not the one I was expecting. After Rosa stopped calling us following the health manipulation incident, we had about 3 weeks of peace. No phone calls, no family pressure, and no drama about Isabella's name. Carlos and I were able to focus on our daily lives without constantly worrying about the next conflict with his mother. During this quiet period, something interesting happened. Diego started asking more questions about why Grandma Rosa didn't call anymore. He remembered that she used to video chat with them regularly, and he was confused about why that had stopped. Diego also asked why Grandma Rosa called Isabella a different name than everyone else. Carlos and I realized that our 5-year-old had been paying more attention to the name issue than we thought. Diego told us that it bothered him when Rosa called his sister Bella because that wasn't her real name. He said it seemed like Grandma Rosa didn't know his sister very well if she couldn't remember her correct name. This conversation with Diego confirmed that we had been right to protect our children from Rosa's behavior. Even a young child could see that using the wrong name repeatedly was disrespectful and confusing. We felt more confident about the boundaries we had set. 4 weeks ago, Miguel called us with unexpected news. He said Rosa had been talking to other family members about planning a surprise visit to Canada. Rosa apparently believed that if she just showed up at our door, we wouldn't turn her away in person. She had been asking relatives for money to help pay for the trip. Miguel was concerned about Rosa's plan because he knew it would create a terrible situation for everyone involved. He had tried to talk Rosa out of the surprise visit idea, but she wasn't listening to his advice. Miguel warned us so we could prepare for the possibility of Rosa showing up unannounced. Carlos and I were shocked that Rosa would consider such an extreme action. The idea of her appearing at our door without permission felt like a violation of the boundaries we had worked so hard to establish. Carlos called Rosa immediately to address this plan before she could act on it. When Carlos confronted Rosa about the surprise visit idea, she didn't deny it. Instead, she said that desperate times called for desperate measures. Rosa claimed that we had left her no choice but to take drastic action to see her grandchildren. She said that showing up in person would force us to have a real conversation about the situation. Carlos told Rosa that a surprise visit would result in her being asked to leave immediately. He explained that showing up unannounced would be a violation of our privacy and would not lead to the reconciliation she was hoping for. Carlos warned Rosa that if she came to Canada without our permission, we would not let her into our house. Rosa got very upset during this conversation and accused Carlos of threatening his own mother. She said she couldn't believe he would refuse to see her even if she traveled all the way to Canada. Rosa claimed that any normal son would be happy to have his mother visit, regardless of the circumstances. Carlos stood firm and told Rosa that her behavior over the past months had damaged our trust in her. He explained that surprise visits and manipulation tactics were only making the situation worse. Carlos said that if Rosa wanted to rebuild their relationship, she needed to start by respecting the boundaries we had established. After that phone call, Rosa went silent again for about a week. Then Miguel called to tell us that Rosa had abandoned her surprise visit plan. She had realized that she couldn't afford the trip without financial help from family members, and most relatives had refused to give her money once they understood what she was planning. Miguel said Rosa was now claiming that she was done trying to maintain a relationship with us. She told family members that she had tried everything possible to connect with her grandchildren, but we were determined to keep them away from her. Rosa said she was giving up on ever seeing Diego and Isabella again. This dramatic declaration was clearly another manipulation attempt, but Carlos surprised me by not reacting emotionally to it. Instead of feeling guilty or trying to fix things, he seemed relieved. Carlos said that if Rosa wanted to cut off contact, that was her choice, but we weren't going to chase after her anymore. 2 weeks ago, we got confirmation that Rosa's latest dramatic gesture was just another act. Carlos's Aunt Carmen called to tell us that Rosa had been asking her to convince us to reach out. Rosa apparently expected that threatening to cut off contact would make us panic and apologize. Carmen told us that Rosa has been complaining to anyone who will listen about how unfairly we've treated her. She's been portraying herself as a victim who just wanted to love her grandchildren but was rejected for no good reason. Carmen said most family members are getting tired of Rosa's constant complaints and drama. Miguel confirmed this when he called us last week. He said Rosa has been calling different relatives every day to rehash the same grievances about the name issue and our treatment of her. Miguel told us that people are starting to avoid Rosa's calls because they're tired of hearing about the family conflict. According to Miguel, Rosa's behavior has actually hurt her reputation within the extended family. People who initially sympathized with her are now seeing a pattern of manipulation and drama seeking. Miguel said some relatives have told him privately that they understand why we set boundaries with Rosa. This information helped Carlos see the situation more clearly. He realized that Rosa's behavior wasn't just affecting our immediate family, it was damaging her relationships with other relatives too. Carlos said he felt sad for his mother but also relieved that we weren't the only ones who had noticed her problematic patterns. Yesterday, Rosa called us for the first time in 3 weeks. She didn't apologize or acknowledge any of her previous behavior. Instead, she acted like nothing had happened and asked to video chat with the children. Rosa said she missed her grandchildren and wanted to see how much they had grown. Carlos told Rosa that nothing had changed since their last conversation. He said she was welcome to have a relationship with the children, but only if she could consistently respect our family rules. Carlos reminded Rosa that this meant using Isabella's correct name and not trying to manipulate or confuse the children. Rosa sighed and said she would try to remember to use Isabella's name, but she couldn't promise to be perfect. She said that changing habits was difficult for older people and that we should be more understanding. Rosa asked if we could just focus on the children instead of getting upset about small mistakes. Carlos told Rosa that this wasn't about small mistakes anymore. He explained that her deliberate attempts to manipulate Isabella and her various schemes to get around our boundaries had shown that she wasn't acting in good faith. Carlos said trust had to be rebuilt slowly through consistent respectful behavior. Rosa got frustrated and said she didn't understand why everything had to be so complicated. She claimed that other grandparents didn't have to follow so many rules to see their grandchildren. Rosa said we were being unreasonable and making normal family relationships impossible. Carlos ended the call by telling Rosa that she could contact us again when she was ready to accept our boundaries without arguing about them. He said we wanted the children to have a relationship with their grandmother, but not at the expense of our family's peace and stability. Since that conversation, Rosa hasn't called back. Miguel thinks she's probably trying to figure out her next approach or waiting for us to change our minds. Carlos and I have decided that we're done trying to manage Rosa's behavior and will simply respond to whatever she does next. Our children are thriving without the constant drama surrounding Rosa's visits and calls. Diego has stopped asking about Grandma Rosa regularly, and Isabella is developing her language skills without confusion about her name. We feel like we've protected them from unnecessary stress while they're still so young. Carlos and I have learned a lot about setting boundaries with difficult family members. We've realized that some people will never respect limits no matter how clearly you communicate them. We're at peace with the possibility that Rosa may choose to maintain minimal contact rather than change her behavior. If Rosa decides to work on rebuilding trust by consistently respecting our boundaries, we'll be open to that. But we're no longer willing to compromise our children's well-being or our family's peace to accommodate her manipulation and drama. Sometimes protecting your immediate family means accepting that relationships with extended family may suffer. Now let's move to the next story. Story 2. My wife was secretly stealing our kids' college fund to support her parents' lavish lifestyle, destroying our family's future. I discovered the truth and filed for divorce. I never thought I'd be writing a post like this, but here I am. I'm Dave, 34M, and I've been married to Melissa, 32F, for 8 years now. We have 2 kids, Tommy, 6M, and Susan, 4F. I thought we had a good life together, but I recently discovered something that's turned my world upside down. Melissa and I met during our sophomore year of college. We were both part of a study group for a particularly tough economics class. I remember being struck by her intelligence and her quick wit. We started dating a few months later, and things just clicked. We graduated, got jobs, and after a few years, decided to tie the knot. I work as a software engineer for a mid-sized tech company. It's a demanding job, but I enjoy the challenges it brings. Melissa used to work as a high school English teacher. She was great at it too, her students loved her, and she had a real passion for literature. However, when Susan was born 4 years ago, we decided it would be best for our family if Melissa became a stay-at-home mom. It was a joint decision, and I was more than happy to support our family financially. Melissa's parents, Robert, 60M, and Linda, 58F, have always been a bit of a handful. I remember the first time I met them, about a year into our relationship. They showed up at Melissa's apartment unannounced, expecting her to drop everything and entertain them for the weekend. It was clear from the start that they had a strong hold over Melissa. Robert and Linda have never been great with money. They've always lived beyond their means, constantly chasing the next big thing. New cars every couple of years, lavish vacations, the latest gadgets, you name it, they had to have it. I remember Melissa telling me stories about how they'd max out credit cards and then open new ones, how they'd take out loans they couldn't afford to repay. Over the years, I've seen them guilt Melissa into helping them out financially. It started small, a couple $100s here and there for emergencies. Melissa always seemed uncomfortable about it, but she'd give in to their demands. I wasn't thrilled, but I figured it wasn't a huge deal in the grand scheme of things. Last week, though, I discovered the true extent of what's been going on. I was going through our bank statements, something I admittedly should have done more regularly. We'd been planning to renovate our kitchen, and I wanted to see how much we could afford to spend. That's when I noticed some strange transfers. Large sums of money were being moved from our joint account to an account I didn't recognize. At first, I thought it might be a mistake or even fraud. My heart was racing as I dug deeper, following the trail of these mysterious transfers. What I found left me speechless. The account belonged to Melissa's parents. Over the past 2 years, Melissa had been transferring thousands of dollars to them every month. We're talking about nearly $100,000 in total. Money that was meant for our family, our kids' future, just gone. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I sat there, staring at the computer screen, for what felt like hours. My mind was spinning, trying to make sense of it all. How could Melissa do this? How could she give away so much of our money without telling me? When Melissa got home that evening, I confronted her about it. I tried to stay calm, but I could hear the anger and hurt in my voice as I asked her to explain. She broke down almost immediately, tears streaming down her face as she admitted everything. She told me that her parents had been guilt-tripping her into giving them money. They claimed they needed it for medical bills, home repairs, and other emergencies. But from what I could gather, most of it went towards their lavish lifestyle, expensive vacations, new cars, designer clothes. All the while, we've been cutting back on our own expenses, trying to save for our kids' future. Melissa swore she never meant to hurt our family, that she was just trying to help her parents. She said she felt trapped between her loyalty to them and her commitment to our family. She kept saying she thought she could handle it, that she could help them without it affecting us too much. But I can't help feeling betrayed. This wasn't her money to give away. It was our family's money, meant for our kids' college funds, our retirement, our future. I thought about all the times I'd worked late, taken on extra projects, all to provide for our family. And all that time, a significant chunk of our income was being funneled away to support her parents' irresponsible lifestyle. I'm at a loss. I love Melissa, but I don't know if I can trust her anymore. She's essentially been stealing from our family for years. And her parents? I'm furious with them for taking advantage of their daughter and, by extension, our entire family. I've frozen our joint account for now and moved most of our savings to an account only I can access. Melissa is upset about this, saying I'm treating her like a child. But how can I trust her with our finances after this? How can I be sure she won't keep sending money to her parents behind my back? I don't know what to do next. Part of me wants to confront her parents, demand they pay back every cent they took from us. I imagine myself showing up at their door, laying out all the evidence, and watching their smug faces fall as they realize they've been caught. But would that really solve anything? Would they even have the money to pay us back? Another part of me wants to cut them out of our lives entirely. Just sever all ties, block their numbers, and never speak to them again. But I know that would devastate Melissa, and it would be hard on our kids too. They love their grandparents, despite everything. And then there's the part of me that's questioning my entire marriage. Can I ever trust Melissa again? Can our relationship recover from this level of deception? I think about all the good times we've had together, all the challenges we've overcome as a team. Is this betrayal too big to overcome? I find myself lying awake at night, replaying conversations and events from the past 2 years in my head. Were there signs I missed? Times when Melissa seemed extra stressed about money, or when her parents' demands seemed more frequent. I can't help but feel like I should have noticed something was wrong sooner. I'm lost and could really use some advice. Am I overreacting? Should I try to forgive Melissa and work through this? Or is this betrayal too big to overcome? How do I protect my family's financial future while also trying to salvage my marriage? And what do I do about her parents? I never imagined I'd be in this situation. I always thought Melissa and I were on the same page when it came to our finances and our future. Now, I feel like I'm living with a stranger. The woman I thought I knew would never have done something like this. I'm angry, I'm hurt, and I'm scared for what this means for our future. Any advice or insights would be greatly appreciated. I'm trying to keep it together for the kids, but inside, I'm falling apart. Update 1. It's been about a month since my last post, and a lot has happened. I want to thank everyone for their advice and support. It really helped me get through some tough decisions. After my initial post, I spent a few days just processing everything. I was angry, hurt, and confused. I threw myself into work, staying late at the office just to avoid going home and facing the reality of my situation. But I knew I couldn't avoid it forever. About a week after I discovered the truth, I sat Melissa down for a long, hard talk. I laid out exactly how I felt, betrayed, angry, and scared for our future. I told her how her actions had shaken the very foundation of our marriage and our family. Melissa cried a lot during our conversation. She kept apologizing, saying she never meant for it to get so out of hand. She admitted that her parents had been manipulating her, playing on her guilt and family loyalty. She talked about how they'd always made her feel responsible for their well-being, even when she was a child. She told me about times in her childhood when they'd guilted her into giving them her birthday money or the cash she'd earned from babysitting jobs. It was a pattern that had been established long before she met me, and one she'd never been able to break free from. I insisted that Melissa cut off all financial ties with her parents immediately. She agreed, but it wasn't easy for her. Her parents didn't take it well at all. They called and texted constantly, alternating between guilt trips and angry demands. It was hard to watch Melissa struggle with this, but I knew it was necessary. We also started marriage counseling. Our first few sessions were rough. There was a lot of hurt and anger to work through. I found myself bringing up old resentments I didn't even know I had, times when Melissa had been secretive about money, or when her parents' needs had seemed to take priority over our own families. but the counseling is helping us communicate better and understand each other's perspectives. We're learning to be more open with each other, to voice our concerns before they become big issues. It's a slow process, but I think we're making progress. As for her parents, I did end up confronting them. I went to their house, without Melissa, at her request, and laid out everything I knew. They tried to deny it at first, claiming Melissa had offered the money freely. Then they tried to justify their actions, saying they had needs that we couldn't understand. I told them in no uncertain terms that they had stolen from their grandchildren's future and that I wouldn't stand for it. I demanded they start paying us back. They laughed in my face, saying they had no money to give. That's when I played my trump card. I had prepared a detailed record of all the transfers, dates, and amounts. I told them if they didn't agree to a repayment plan, I'd be taking legal action. That sobered them up quickly. We eventually agreed on a repayment plan. It's not ideal, it'll take years to get back what they took, but it's something. I'm not holding my breath that they'll actually follow through, but at least it's a start. At home, things are still tense. Melissa is trying hard to rebuild my trust, but it's a slow process. She's agreed to complete financial transparency. We've set up a system where we review our accounts together weekly. She's also started seeing a therapist to work on her issues with her parents and her inability to say no to them. We've also had to make some tough financial decisions. Our savings have taken a big hit, so we've had to cut back on a lot of things. No more fancy vacations or eating out. We've canceled streaming services, gym memberships, and any other non-essential expenses. We're focusing on rebuilding our savings and securing our kids' future. Melissa has started looking for part-time work to help with our finances. It's been an adjustment for all of us. The kids are used to having her home all the time, and she's having to relearn how to balance work and family life. But I think it's good for her to have something outside of the house and the kids. It's giving her a sense of independence and accomplishment that I think she needed. I'm still hurt and angry, but I'm trying to work through it. There are days when I look at Melissa and all I can see is the betrayal. But then there are moments, when she's laughing with the kids, or when we're working together to figure out our budget, when I remember why I fell in love with her in the first place. Melissa seems genuinely remorseful and is working hard to make amends. She's been patient with my mood swings and understanding of my need for transparency. She's even suggested that we meet with a financial advisor to help us get back on track and plan for our future. Only time will tell if we can fully recover from this, but for now, we're taking it one day at a time. We're both committed to making this work, for ourselves and for our kids. It's not easy, and there are days when I wonder if we're doing the right thing by staying together. But then I look at our kids, at the life we've built together, and I know it's worth fighting for. Update 2. It's been about 3 months since my last update, and things have taken a turn. At first, it seemed like we were making progress. Melissa found a part-time job at a local bookstore. She was enjoying the work, and it was helping us slowly rebuild our savings. Her parents had made a few small payments towards what they owed us, though it was clear they weren't taking it as seriously as we'd hoped. We were continuing with our marriage counseling, and it felt like we were slowly rebuilding trust. Melissa was being transparent about our finances, and we were having regular check-ins about our budget and spending. We even started having weekly date nights, usually just a simple dinner at home after the kids were in bed, but it was nice to have that time to reconnect. But then, about a month ago, I discovered something that shattered whatever trust we'd managed to rebuild. I was using Melissa's laptop to print some documents for work. She was out grocery shopping, and my printer had run out of ink. I didn't think twice about using her computer. We'd always shared our devices freely. As I was closing the browser after printing, I accidentally clicked on her email tab. A message popped up from her mother, and what I saw made my blood run cold. Melissa had been secretly communicating with her parents behind my back. The email referenced a new bank account that I didn't know about. My heart racing, I dug deeper. I found a trail of emails discussing money transfers and ways to hide them from me. Worse, I discovered that Melissa had set up this new bank account and was still sending her parents money. Not as much as before, but any amount was too much at this point. She'd been siphoning off a portion of her paychecks from her new job and sending it to them. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. All the progress we'd made, all the work we'd put into rebuilding our relationship, it felt like it had been for nothing. The betrayal felt even worse this time because she'd gone to such lengths to hide it from me. I confronted Melissa immediately when she got home. She tried to deny it at first, but when I showed her the evidence, she broke down. She claimed she felt torn between her loyalty to her parents and her commitment to our family. She said she couldn't bear to see her parents struggle, though from what I could tell, their idea of struggling was not being able to afford luxury items. She begged me to understand, saying she felt trapped and didn't know how to break free from her parents' influence. She swore she was going to tell me, that she was just waiting for the right time. But I couldn't believe her. How could I, when she'd gone to such lengths to hide this from me? I was devastated. I felt like a fool for having believed we were making progress, for thinking we could work through this. The trust that we'd been so carefully trying to rebuild had been shattered all over again. I told Melissa I needed some time to think and went to stay with my brother for a few days. My brother was furious when I told him what had happened. He'd always been wary of Melissa's relationship with her parents, and now he felt vindicated in his suspicions. During those few days away, I did a lot of soul-searching. I thought about our entire relationship, from our early days in college to now. I realized that there had always been a pattern of Melissa prioritizing her parents' needs over our own. It had just never been so blatant, or so damaging, before. I thought about our kids, about the future I wanted for them. I realized that as much as I loved Melissa, I couldn't continue in a relationship where I was constantly worried about being betrayed. The trust was broken, perhaps irreparably this time. When I returned home, I told Melissa that I wanted a divorce. She begged me to reconsider, promised she'd cut off all contact with her parents, swore she'd do anything to save our marriage. But I knew in my heart that the damage was done. Even if she did all those things, I'd always be waiting for the other shoe to drop, always wondering if she was hiding something from me. We're now in the process of separating. It's been hard, especially on the kids. Tommy is old enough to understand that something serious is happening, and he's been acting out at school. Susan is too young to really grasp what's going on, but she can sense the tension in the house. We're trying to keep things as amicable as possible for their sake, but there's no denying the tension. We've told the kids that we're going to be living apart for a while, but we haven't used the word divorce with them yet. We're planning to start them in therapy to help them process everything that's happening. I'm focusing on securing my finances and ensuring my kids' future is protected. I've hired a lawyer to handle the divorce proceedings and to make sure Melissa's parents can't touch any more of our money. We're going through the process of separating our assets, which is complicated and painful. It's not the outcome I wanted, but I feel it's necessary for my own well-being and the future of my children. Sometimes, no matter how much you love someone, you have to recognize when a relationship has become too toxic to continue. I never thought I'd be a divorced dad in my mid-30s, but here I am. It's a difficult road ahead, but I'm trying to stay focused on what's best for my kids and for my own mental health. I'll update again once things are more settled. Thanks again to everyone who's offered support and advice throughout this ordeal. It's been a lifeline during the darkest times. Update 3, it's been 6 months since my last update, and I'm writing this from a place I never expected to be, my new apartment. The divorce was finalized last month. It was a difficult and emotionally draining process, but we managed to keep things relatively civil for the sake of our kids. We agreed on joint custody, with the kids primarily living with me. Melissa didn't fight this arrangement too hard. I think she knew she was in no position to argue after everything that had happened. Moving out of our family home was one of the hardest things I've ever done. Watching the kids say goodbye to their rooms, helping them pack up their favorite toys and books, it was heartbreaking. But I've tried to make our new apartment as comfortable and homey as possible for them. Tommy and Susan share a room now, which was an adjustment at first, but they seem to be adapting well. Financially, it was a bit of a mess. Melissa's secret account and continued financial support to her parents had drained more of our resources than I initially realized. My lawyer was instrumental in ensuring that this was taken into account during the asset division. In the end, I managed to secure most of our remaining assets to ensure our kids' future. As for Melissa's parents, they've shown their true colors. Once they realized the money train had finally stopped, they practically disowned Melissa. Last I heard, they were trying to guilt her brother into supporting them now. It's sad to see, but it's no longer my problem to deal with. Melissa has moved back in with her parents temporarily. She's struggling to find her feet financially, which I feel bad about, but I can't bring myself to help her anymore. She made her choices, and now she has to live with the consequences. She's still working at the bookstore, but it's not enough to support her independently yet. The kids are adjusting as well as can be expected. They miss having both parents under one roof, but I'm doing my best to provide a stable, loving environment for them. I've started taking them to see a child psychologist to help them process everything that's happened. Tommy's behavior at school has improved, and Susan seems less anxious than she was during the separation. Co-parenting with Melissa is challenging. We try to keep our interactions focused solely on the kids, but there's still a lot of tension and unresolved hurt between us. We're using a co-parenting app to communicate and coordinate schedules, which helps minimize direct contact. As for me, I'm slowly healing. There are days when I miss the life we had, the family we were. But then I remember the betrayal, the lies, and I know I made the right decision. I'm focusing on my kids and my career, and for the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm back in control of my life. I've started dating again, casually. It's strange being back in the dating world after so long, but it's also exciting. I'm taking things slow, making sure to prioritize my kids and my own emotional healing. I've been upfront with the women I've met about my situation, and most have been understanding. Work has been a refuge throughout all of this. I threw myself into my job during the worst of the divorce proceedings, and it paid off. I recently got a promotion. The extra income has been helpful in setting up our new life. Looking back, I can see now that there were red flags I ignored early in our relationship. Melissa's inability to stand up to her parents, her secretive nature about finances, these should have been warning signs. It's a hard lesson learned, but one I won't forget. To anyone out there facing a similar situation, my advice would be this: trust your instincts. If something feels off, it probably is. Don't be afraid to ask questions, to demand transparency, especially when it comes to finances in a marriage. And remember, it's okay to put yourself first sometimes. You can't pour from an empty cup. This journey has been difficult, but I'm coming out the other side stronger. I'm looking forward to the future, whatever it may hold, knowing that I have the strength to face whatever challenges come my way. My focus now is on being the best father I can be and building a happy, stable life for my kids and myself. Thank you all for your support throughout this ordeal. It's meant more than you know.